The big story of the month currently is Apex Legends, a brand new free-to-play battle royale game developed by Respawn Entertainment, the creators of the critically acclaimed Titanfall series. The game is unusual in that it was announced as a complete surprise, or at least it was meant to be before the game's announcement was leaked a few days before its official February 5th, 2019 announcement. Either way, the game came out of nowhere, and while there was a lot of skepticism and disappointment surrounding Apex Legends initially, due to the fact that fans had anticipated Respawn would be working on the highly anticipated Titanfall 3 rather than following the Battle Royale trend, in the end, their new game managed to garner mostly positive feedback and gain a lot of traction. It took Apex Legends just a few hours to hit the 1 million players mark, which is damn impressive for a game that had barely any marketing. 3 days later, we learned that the game managed to hit the 10 million players mark, surpassing lifetime player count of other big-budget EA releases such as Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5, which capped out at the 7 million or so players mark. Now, Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5 were sold at a premium price point of $60 at launch, whereas Apex Legends is free to play, so it stands to reason that Apex Legends would easily surpass many of EA's other releases, given it can just be downloaded without paying. But at the same time, Apex Legends could have just as easily not gained traction. A game releasing as a free to play doesn't always guarantee that it will garner a significant amount of interest, but the stars seem to have aligned for Apex Legends, and 10 million players in 3 days is a landmark achievement for a game that entered the saturated Battle Royale market so late and that was essentially announced on launch day. But the Apex train doesn't stop there, folks. The official Apex Legends Twitter page recently announced that within the first week of release, the game has managed to hit the 25 million players mark. That, ladies and gentlemen, is damn incredible. 25 million downloads in a week. A game with little to no marketing, a game that practically marketed itself. Apex Legends' meteoric success can be attributed to a number of factors, the first one of which is that it's actually a really good game. I've played a few hours of it myself, and as I said in my last video, this is probably the most fun I've had with a Battle Royale game. I'm personally not much of a Battle Royale enthusiast, the genre simply doesn't appeal to me personally, but with Apex Legends, I actually found myself decently engaged for once. The gunplay feels really great, which is par for the course coming from a Respawn game. The game's visuals are overall pretty distinct, and more importantly, the game adds enough of a twist to the Battle Royale genre to stand on its own. The way the game emphasizes team play through the implementation of Overwatch-style hero characters with unique abilities who have to synergize and work together makes for some very interesting dynamic. For example, in one match, my squad was down one man, and it was just me and another player who was playing the legend Reid, who has this ability to create portals between two locations on the map. At one point I was shot down by an enemy squad and I decided to drop down in hopes that I could seek cover and get revived. I thought we were done for, but what my squad mate did was create a portal on top of the cliff where we were engaged in battle, drop down, revive me, then put down a second portal so that we could get right back into the fight. It was one of those inspired moments that made me realize just how creative you could get with all of these characters' abilities, how much room for improvisation and interesting plays there was. Me personally, I like playing Mirage, who can send out illusory copies of himself to fool or distract enemies and to scout ahead while allowing me to pinpoint enemy locations, tools that I've used to great effect. I've also seen how useful characters like Gibraltar, who specializes in deploying shields, can be to a team, and every character just in general has something that can help the three-person squad out. The character's abilities are just present enough to allow for some inspired coordination, but they aren't so vital that it throws the game completely off balance or gives any one character a huge advantage over another. Ultimately, whether you win or lose will bog down to the weapons, equipment, and resources you manage to procure, as well as your overall proficiency with the game's shooting mechanics, with character abilities acting more as a useful supplement. Another interesting twist that I like and that I think further encourages teamwork is the ability to collect your teammates' dog tags within a limited time after they've perished. Take the dog tags back to a respawn location, and bring felled teammates back to life, albeit stripped of all equipment. It paves the way for squads who experienced early misfortunes to make a substantial comeback, and it just adds a whole other layer of strategic play that I quite enjoyed. I also love how zippy it feels to traverse through the game's maps due to generally fast movement speed, the ease of being able to vault over obstacles, the ability to slide down hills, the ability to use ziplines scattered throughout the map that enable even faster mobility and whatnot. This is no Titanfall, mind you, there is no wall running or double jumping or anything of the sort, but it still feels really good to move around and shoot in this game, and the unique characters give the overall experience that unique spice and flavor. There is no denying that Apex Legends draws elements from many other games that on their own don't seem wholly unique, but when it all comes together as a cohesive whole, the result is actually quite refreshing. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, what I'm trying to say is that the fact the game managed to hit the 25 million players mark so quickly is, I think, a testament to how solid and fun the game's core gameplay actually is, and how much people are loving this game. Another important factor in Apex Legends' success is the way it somehow turned out to be one of the smoothest launches of a major online game that I've ever seen. Keep in mind that this is a game that was kept secret right up until launch, meaning that there wasn't much in the way of stress tests or large-scale betas. As a result, one would expect that Apex Legends will be rife with technical issues, bugs, and server crashes, but the opposite is true. While not 100% perfect, and while there are a few kinks to work out, with all said and done, it is a polished product that people could dive into from the outset without any huge mishaps to turn them off the game, which goes a long way in driving momentum. Then there is the fact that Apex Legends' marketing campaign was completely inspired. Respawn's strategy was described best by Apex Legends' lead producer Drew McCoy during an interview with Eurogamer when he said, quote, "To try and convince a skeptical audience for months with trailers and hands-on articles, we're just like, let the game speak for itself. It's the most powerful antidote to potential problems. We're doing a free-to-play game with essentially loot boxes after we were bought by EA, and it's not Titanfall 3. It's the perfect recipe for a marketing plan to go awry, so why have that? Let's just ship the game and let players play." I think he's absolutely right. I think if there would have been months of marketing build-up surrounding what's an EA-published game that's yet another Battle Royale title, one featuring loot boxes no less, rather than the Titanfall sequel many had been anticipating, the game would have faced all kinds of skepticism and negative PR, so it was really smart of them to just get the game out there and let the people check it out for themselves from the get-go at no charge without presumptions clouding the game's merits. It was very risky in many regards, but the game turned out to be a very fun, very refreshing, and very polished Battle Royale experience that immediately captured gamers. So Respawn achieved their intentions of allowing the game to speak for itself, and it paid off. They were confident in their own product. They knew they had made a great game, and they took a leap of faith that worked wonders. 25 million players have now played Apex Legends, and that number is only bound to grow over the coming months. Funny thing is that EA didn't have much faith that Respawn's strategy would work, with the studio having to convince EA executives to trust them and that this was the right game for Respawn to make. Fast forward to today and we might just be looking at EA's biggest mega hit since FIFA. Apex Legends is going to make EA boatloads of money, I can tell you that, especially given the title is filled to the brim with monetization. Now, I've said this before, but Apex Legends gets leeway where monetization is concerned in that there is no entry fee for the game. It's free to download, it's free to enjoy the core experience, microtransactions only revolve around cosmetic items, and there are ways to earn stuff just by playing the game, though it will naturally take you much longer that way. My one major gripe is the inclusion of paid loot boxes, which I don't find excusable in any game format and something I hope they get rid of. I don't mind if players can earn randomized loot by playing the game, but once you allow players to pay for that stuff, it just becomes glorified gambling, even if Apex Legends isn't the worst version of it we have seen. The game's various forms of monetization schemes combined with the meteoric rise in player count is bound to please investors though, and it shows when you look at EA's latest market summary. Right here you can see how EA stock dipped by about 13% after reporting in their latest financial financial briefing that Battlefield 5 had missed its sales target by about 1 million units while citing overall weak performance throughout Q3 fiscal year 2019. From there, we saw their stock stabilize and recover a bit, but it wasn't until February 7th, when Respawn announced that Apex Legends had hit 10 million players in 3 days, that we really started to see EA stock soar as investors began to gain a little more confidence in the publisher's capability to make them boatloads of cash. From its lowest value on February 6th, EA stock managed to recover by a whopping 21%, and with the most recent announcement that the game has surpassed another landmark figure in such a short amount of time, 25 million players in a week, I can definitely see the company's stock rising even higher in the days to follow. I'll give EA credit for one thing: they actually allowed Respawn to create the game they wanted even when executives were initially skeptical, and according to Respawn, the publisher had no hand whatsoever in the game's development or anything about it, and it shows. EA seems to have given Respawn free reign over this project and how they wanted to handle its release, and it all worked out in the end. You see, EA, great things can come from letting game studios and developers spread their wings. Mainly though, I want to congratulate Respawn for their great success with this game. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed to hear Titanfall 3 wasn't in development, but that doesn't detract from the fact that they ultimately made a great game with Apex Legends, and the studio continues to show how much talent it houses. They have flexed their muscles before with Titanfall and Titanfall 2, and while the first game sold fairly well, keep in mind that the second game unfortunately failed to meet sales expectations due to its poor release timing, which felt like such a waste given how stellar the game was. Respawn is one of those great underrated studios that needed a big win in my opinion, and with Apex Legends they've finally got that, and deservedly so. They have crafted a genuinely fun game with enough original implementations of great ideas to rake in 25 million players in a week and counting. No small feat even for a free-to-play game, all while attracting mostly positive reception, and it's an achievement worth applauding. Here's to Respawn making more great games in the future, here's hoping EA executives don't manage to fuck this up somehow, and for the distant future, here's hoping that Apex Legends can act as a stepping stone to the eventual development and release of Titanfall 3. Anyway, that's it for this news update and discussion video. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below what you make of Apex Legends' success and EA stock rising in response. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.